the entrepreneur's choice. Throughout this class, we have spoken entirely of becoming an entrepreneur by developing a totally new business. That is the way in which historically great fortunes have been made. But it's not the only way to be an entrepreneur, and in fact, it's by far the most risky way to be an entrepreneur. So you have some choices. Today we're going to examine the variety of choices available to you. So there's going to be three different views that we're going to take of this issue. First of all, you can start a business such as we've been talking about this semester. Second, you can buy a business. So there's an existing business out there, could be any kind of a business, but you buy it from its existing owner. And third, you can buy a franchise. So you have the opportunity of taking advantage of a proven concept and having your own business and starting your own business, usually in its own new location, etc. But you don't have all the issues of creating something from scratch. Looking at the positives and negatives associated with each of these choices. When looking at starting a business, one of the negatives is a lack of a track record. You are betting that your idea is going to work, that the offering that you come up with is going to be successful and is going to be something that people want, and that you can market it, come up with a plan to get it to the information to the people and get them in the door, whether literally or figuratively, and that they will actually pay for it. However, you have nothing specific that you can bet on for this particular business if it actually is a brand new business. The positive, on the other hand, is there's no negative carryover. Virtually all businesses have some negative views. All you have to do is look at Yelp or just go online and look at what people have to say about various businesses. Just the nature of being in business, you're going to make some people upset, and that negative carryover can follow you around. Another negative is you don't know what you don't know. The lack of track record kind of says we don't know whether it's going to work, we don't know if we're in the right location, lots of things like that. But when you're starting a business, you're often going into an area where there's a lot of things that you don't even know the basics about. So you have no idea that there are some issues out there that can come in and work against you. These are the ones that typically kill somebody. If it was obvious, you wouldn't make that mistake. But they're not obvious to the uninitiated person. And in this, that's how we get to you don't know what you don't know. And as we say, that's what kills you. On the positive side, the ability to create something. An awful lot of entrepreneurs who go this route are doing it because they just love the subject matter and they love having the ability to create it. It's their baby. And it gives them the motivation for the hard work, the effort, and the risk associated with starting a new business. Starting a new business is the most difficult to raise capital because of the things we just talked about, the lack of track record, you don't know what you don't know. People are going to have to hold their breath and make a bet on this business coming forward. And investing in startups is not generally seen as a conservative approach by any degree. You put money here that you can afford to lose. You bet that you're going to have enough winners and that those winners are going to be big, that they will offset the likelihood of having lots and lots of losers along the way. Because of that, it is very difficult to raise capital, and you can't go to most common capital sources and be successful for starting up a brand new business. On the other hand, of course, is the highest profitable return. You look at the biggest names in terms of people that you know who have made fortunes, and almost all of them came out of this route, whether we're looking at the founders of Microsoft or the founders of Apple or the founders of Google or the founders of Facebook. You're looking at these people with billions and billions of dollars. This is how they got there. If you take something, create it from nothing, and it happens to be successful, you can get a tremendous return out of it. Now let's look at the second approach, which is to buy a business. So there's an existing business out there. It's been functioning for a while, and we have the opportunity to buy this business. One of the first negatives to consider is the possible negative carryover. As we said before, all businesses have some. Some have a lot more than others. You have to understand what that negative carryover is. There may be a reason why they're selling this business, and you may not be able to overcome the negatives that already exist. The positive is track record. You can actually look at results and see how the business is done, factor in your own skill set and the choices you're planning to make about the business, and you can have a track record to move forward and on which to build your future business. One of the negatives is getting up to speed. Even when you build in consulting contracts and assistance contracts and old management staying on board for a while, a lot of times they've been doing this for a long time. They've learned a lot of things, and it's very difficult to ensure that they're in fact going to pass that knowledge on to you. So getting up to speed is a particular issue here. On the other side, possible training. Obviously, they can bring you up to speed to some degree in a business that you have not been in before, and you can learn from them. It takes time, and it takes a lot of effort on both parties' parts to see to it you get all the knowledge you need. But that is a possibility you have here that you didn't have when you started the business, because there's obviously no one to train you. Buying a business is typically the highest cost. You wind up paying for the assets in the business, and then you wind up paying some multiple of cash flow going into the future. All that adds up to quite a bit of money relative to the revenue stream that you're going to be getting out of it. On the other hand, you've got the chance for improved performance. You can change the business and accomplish improved performance. This is why you see private equity firms go in and buy existing businesses. The existing businesses aren't often being run as efficiently and effectively as they could be, and the private equity firms can put in new management and bring in people to assist them in making the business much more profitable than it was in the past. You can do this in a small scale when you go in and buy an existing business if you have the skill set to improve its profitability and move it forward. The third approach is franchising a business. So you go buy a franchise. The obvious typical one would be McDonald's, and they tell you how to run the business. They have marketing all set up. They have lots of capabilities to assist you putting the business together. So it's kind of like starting your own business. On the other hand, it's not taking all the risks and starting from scratch like you do in your own business. The number one negative on that is control. Generally speaking, the better franchises, you're going to give up some control, because what they want to ensure is that every place people go and see that franchise, that they're getting a certain level of quality out of it. And to do that, they have to ensure that they have some degree of control over how you're doing things. If this bothers you, giving up that control, then that's a reason why you probably shouldn't be looking at a franchise. On the other side is the proven concept. So they've shown that this business works. They've shown that it's capable of generating strong cash flows, and they have a business model that works. And you just get that, you pay for it, and you get it, and you're ready to go operate the business. The second negative is your reliance on the franchisor. The next franchisor that goes out of business will hardly be the first. This happens pretty regularly. So unless you're investing your money and buying a franchise from a very well-established franchisor, you do have the possibility that they're going to go down. They can also get in situations where they are no longer capable of giving the kind of guidance and leadership, either through a loss of personnel or a change of ownership, that means that the franchisor just isn't as strong as it was when you bought it. And your reliance on it can certainly diminish the value of what you have. The proven business model is a main thing you're going for. We can talk about examples, but basically you don't have to make it up as you go. You don't have to test out the effectiveness and whether different approaches to doing business works. They've already got that worked out for you. Cost of franchise is a negative. You have typically an upfront cost to a franchise, and then some percentage of revenue as you go forward that you pay for the right to have this franchise, to use the name, and to utilize the other resources of the franchise. On the positive side, it's typically the easiest to raise capital. If it's a franchise that's well known, has a proven track record, you can actually literally go to the bank and borrow money in order to do these things. And raising capital to do a proven franchise is relatively a very easy activity. Our decision criteria now, how you go about making this decision as to which way you want to go. To start a business, it looks something like this. To get to yes, you have to consider, am I independent enough? Am I capable of making these decisions and working on my own enough to make this business a success? Do I have the ability to raise the capital necessary to create this business and to get it going? Do I have a great idea? If I don't have a great idea, then I shouldn't be thinking of doing this. And finally, then, am I able to go through some sort of proof of concept approach to prove to myself that this business is in fact very likely to succeed before I'm all in and moving forward with it? For buying a business, I better be independent, because once again, I'm going to wind up relying on my own capabilities very heavily. I'd have to be able to raise the capital. As we've said before, this is an expensive way to get in business. So where's that money going to come from? I need to have an interest in the business. This is a key fact. If I'm going to spend the time and effort and basically make my career in this kind of business, it needs to be something I'm actually interested in doing. And then, does it have future promise? A lot of times people are getting out of businesses because they realize that the future is limited. So I need to be sure that this has future promise as a business, as an industry. Then the final one is franchise a business. Am I willing to follow rules? If I'm not willing to follow the rules of the franchise, this could cause me problems, could eventually cost me the franchise. But even before that level, if I'm not following the rules, I'm probably not going to be as successful with this franchise as I would be if I'm capable of doing that. If I want to rethink everything, I probably should be in my own business and not in the franchise. The reputation of the franchisor is of extreme importance. I don't want to be buying a franchise with a franchisor who has a bad reputation or even particularly an unknown reputation, unless I'm getting a really good deal. Do I have an interest in the business again? Life's too short to be doing work in a business that you have no interest in at all. And finally, is it a solid market? Do I see this market continuing into the future? Do I see threats to the market on the horizon? And so if I'm satisfied with the solid market, then the franchise is the way to go. So basically, like with any decision, you can make an analysis and see how far down those charts you go. And in this particular case, you would determine which one makes the most sense for you. For this particular person, this analysis says start a business. For you, it may be something totally different. The key takeaway I'd like you to have from this is you do have three options, and that you should, when approaching this kind of decision, particularly later in life when maybe you've gone to work for a big company and now you're transitioning for some reason or another, and you're considering becoming an entrepreneur, take a good solid look at all three of the options available to you and make an intelligent, informed decision about the direction you want to go.